Okay, and we're up. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good whatever time of day you may be consuming this evergreen material. You see the title, you see what we're about. It's about Stay Hired Sunday. If you're looking at this on either LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, yes, I am. I am enjoying the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful city of Naples. But again, I made a commitment to you all to show up day in and day out every single day. So I'm here doing what we do every single Sunday. If it is your first time tuning into me and what did I do, my name as one Crookshank, one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator, Kimberly Blue. How are you?
Doing great on this beautiful day. I'm Kimberly, I'm founder and owner of Art and HR Solutions. And what is the topic today?
Yes. So the topic today. All right. So regular consumers, you guys know this about me, but to the ones that may be new around my world, understand my mind is like a clock. It's working constantly. I don't ever shut it off. You know, the thing I pride myself on, and amongst other entrepreneurs, is making sure you're thinking about what you need to be doing tomorrow every single day. I think that's a positive thing, even though I do get some backlash from it at times. So yesterday, so my girl, she's Dominican. She has a Dominican background. So we all went out to eat last night with her family, and they primarily speak Spanish. They primarily speak Spanish. That's Espanol. So me personally, I enjoy it. You know, that's for other reasons, but we won't get into that today in this professional setting. But so they primarily speak Spanish, and we went out to eat last night. And it wasn't one; it was about 2 different waitresses that we had that were all bilingual as well, and they were speaking to them well. They were able to serve the food. I mean, it's crazy because we're in the U.S. and I was one of the few there that was only English speaker. You know, it was crazy. And like, it got me thinking, because I leaned over to her. I'm like, you know what? That's the topic for that should be the topic for today's show. Because when you think about people trying to come up, or people move into a new area like I did, or, you know, they're coming from other backgrounds, they may not be able to afford traditional education. They may not be able to afford traditional corporate training or whatever, but they're still obviously very, very valuable. And if you see this place, the place was called Fish. It was right on the water. It was an unbelievable setup, an unbelievable business. And I got to thinking of what it's like to be that owner. Does that owner know, hey, maybe I'm not going to go hire some person that has a major in hospitality, but I would hire someone that actually knows how to speak a certain language, because I know they can serve certain things like that. And it got me just thinking about how, you know, the weak shall inherit the earth, and just having certain skills that you're raised with. Is that something that's more hireable than an actual degree? And as I do always, whenever these kinds of things come up, my HR expert is right here to really, you know, let's flesh this one out, because it's really one of those things that I think is important when you're talking about how AI is taking over, how people can put certain things in a machine and it gets spit back out. What happens when it comes to that owner that's thinking about, all right, should I hire the bilingual person, or should I hire the person that looks good on paper, quote unquote? So I'll let you give some initial thoughts there, and then we'll kind of go from there.
So it's a very broad topic, but I can tell you that if I would hire someone that is bilingual over over that person with a degree. The reason why,
Really?
if you're seeking someone that's bilingual, there's no one better than a native speaker.
Hmm.
You know, but I know some Spanish, but if you put me up against somebody that is a native speaker,
Right.
they're gonna win every time, right?
Right.
And so if your customer base is primarily, you know, Spanish speaking, there's nothing wrong with looking for someone that is bilingual, you know, to be able to better serve your customers.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say you would, let me put this on so people know what we're talking about. When you say you would hire someone that is bilingual, is there a specific system that you would put them through? Because we're not here just suggesting that just because a person's bilingual, that just makes them automatically qualified.
That was an overall general.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's why I want to flesh out, because as business owners now, it's important that you know what role it is you're looking to fill, because you may not, again, you may have to merge the two. Like I'll give you an example. There was a situation at the school I teach at, and a lot of my colleagues there from Haiti, and they speak Creole really, really fluently. And there was a situation where there was a family that came in that only spoke Creole. Yet none of the ladies that were all available at the time none of the ladies that spoke Creole that worked at the school, they were available at the time. So we were scrambling around trying to find this one, trying to find that one. And ultimately what happened is we lost the sale. We lost the families that once come in. However, that doesn't mean we change the whole thing and make everybody in the staff have to speak Creole. What I'm thinking about it, what I'm kind of wanting to get clarity on, especially for any business owner that's listening in, is where exactly does the role require you to be bilingual, and then how do you strategically go about it to where you're making sure that a person is actually qualified before you say they're bilingual.
So, for example, if I'm hiring for a customer service, I'm going to use that one because
Yeah.
you're going to be, the customer base could be very broad, and a customer service representative may have to speak several languages, depending. But I think
Hmm.
looking for a business owner or company looking for their primary base of customers, but that person's also going to need customer service skills, phone skills, be able to
Yes.
speak,
Mhm.
English and Spanish, depending
Yes.
on that, on their customer base. You have to look at your customer base
Yes.
and the person that they have the top skills, just like we
Mhm.
said, having that job description with the top skills,
Yes.
that is just adding to a skill. That's all
Yes.
that's doing. It's
Yes.
not saying that that job description goes away because this person is bilingual.
Yes. Hmm.
They still have to meet the other criteria of the role.
Yes. Yes. And as an owner, I'm glad you mentioned as an owner now, it starts to become the incentive now becomes on you, or the responsibility comes on you to create these training programs, create these certification programs. Do not, I repeat, do not go off some cookie cutter system that is just, okay, hey, this person got a master's, okay, you're hired. Here's a certain salary. This person got a PhD. No, do not do that. Make sure you are actually intentionally creating your own training systems so you attract folks that have real world experience, because we can say bilingual all day, but what we're really saying is actual real world experience. So if there's a person looking to bring you in, Kimberly, like, look, she actually has HR experience versus a person that actually just went to school and learned some HR throughout, some class that they took or whatever it is. You have to be intentionally looking to create these systems, to create this, whether it's a certification, create a situation where people are developing professionally, because that was the big thing. That was like, as I was sitting there looking at or sitting there eating dinner, I'm looking at how well they're relating to this family, like, because they're coming in, they have the wine, like they know the type of wine, they know the type of champagne, they know a lot of things, and it was a
Yes.
seafood restaurant. Didn't have much to do with any, like, it wasn't like a Hispanic food serving restaurant. It was actually a seafood restaurant. I'm thinking somebody had to train them on what type of food that is. Somebody had to train them on what exactly they put in this and what exactly they do this. And I'm like, that's how you do it. That is
That's
the prime
training. Right.
example, you know?
Yeah, and as it relates to, just to go back into customer service, they still have to have those core skills. And as far as testing,
Mhm.
what level language fluency they have. There's all kinds of systems that you can do to test that. There's assessments, for example, and the interview process.
Mhm.
What would you do if you had a Hispanic speaker, a Spanish speaker on
Mhm.
the line, and you couldn't understand the words? Because the thing is, people that speak Spanish have different dialects, and so that could be a question that
Right.
you ask, and you can put the answer in Spanish and see how they respond. And there are
Yeah.
translators, but you have to
Right.
do, you said, your due diligence and make sure, because even though they're different dialects, say they didn't understand it. There's nothing wrong with saying, I don't understand that word that you're saying. Could you explain it to me in a different way?
Mhm.
But it doesn't necessarily push them
Right.
out. You just have to make sure that you have that in there. Just like if I was being hired for HR, they're going to ask me,
Mhm.
what is FMLA? What is ADA? So you just have to
Mhm.
have that interview guide and that JD down pat. So that way you'll be able to ask the right questions to get the right person for the job.
Yeah, and that brings it right to the, and then we're going to get to the questions soon. We'll probably keep this around 20, 25 minutes today. But that brings me to another point too, is tailoring, tailoring how you go about your interview process and tailoring what you put on the job description from jump. Listen, guys, look, we I feel like I say this every single week here, but we are living in a revolution with this AI stuff. I mean, I was able now that I actually came on vacation, I spent like an hour before I got on this recording, and it took me so much less time to get everything set up for this week, everything I'm going to be talking about, because I had Chat GPT, just break down everything and say this is what's going to be the description. So I was able to plug and play, and then boom, right after I'm done with this, we could just go enjoy the day, right? And I'm bringing that up not to brag or impress you. I'm impressing upon you. Look, we have some amazing, amazing, amazing tools made for us right now that if you are not taking advantage of, shame on you, right? Shame on you for not taking advantage of it. Because when you think about what you had just mentioned in terms of put somebody through an interview process, these are things that if you're developing yourself every day, and you maybe ask ChatGPT, hey, this problem came up today, write it down, ask them what are a couple solutions that I could be having in my back pocket. So if something comes up next year, if I get an application or something comes up tomorrow, I already got the answers. I already got these little things in my head that I can solve this problem. All right. That's what professional development is all about. And I know I'm going on a little rant here, but I am going to get to a question. When you think about, and I might have already answered this throughout my talking, but when you think about aligning the bilingual, the need for obviously bilingual cultures and people coming up with AI being able to develop on your own self, what would you say is the way of merging? And I'm asking this because there was the person that told me about ChatGPT initially. One of the things that we have to do, or we used to do, I'm primarily the one that drives the buses after school, but one of the mothers of the kids, she speaks Creole and Creole only. So he tried to pull out his phone and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, but he couldn't get it to work. So we ended up staying there a long time. So him and his AI self trying to merge it with a situation where he was speaking Creole, having Creole read to her. It just didn't work, long story short. So we ended up calling someone that could speak Creole, and the problem got solved. But how do you, or what are some suggestions, I guess, you would have for aligning what we're talking about with bilingual with the AI-driven world that we have? Anything you kind of want to address there before we get into the questions?
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the reason why I created an HR bot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, adding in, Spanish, Russian, whatever languages you want so you can reach a broader audience.
Whoa, whoa,
You know,
whoa,
and
whoa, 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 whoa! I didn't know about this one. You threw me off. So your bot is translating is translating languages. Okay,
yes,
so now you got to educate me. Might go a little
I
longer,
have
folks.
three,
I
I
didn't know
have
about
three
I didn't know about
languages in there.
what.
Yeah.
All right, so walk us through how you're able to set this up, if you can. If you can give away some secrets, go ahead. You could, because I didn't even know you could do that though.
Yeah, you can. So they can type in it in Spanish,
Uh-huh.
English, or French. And
Huh.
so, yes, and it'll give the answer for the HR questions. And it was based on customers that I have. And so I wanted them to be bilingual if they, wanted to use it, either, their native language, even if they speak English, but in case they
Right.
did. So I put those in there, same questions. So you load them with questions. And so you could do that and you can set up any framework to do that, just like the AI interview I told you about.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that in different people can, the candidate goes in there, chooses their language, and it'll do that language. So whatever your primary base is, you can
Mm-hmm.
set up your business that way. So
Mm-hmm.
that framework is so important that we talk about every single week.
Hmm. Hence the reason I'm in. And before we get to questions, I want to make sure I point out the fact that she said it was based on what a customer told her. Said it was based on what's it was a client, I'm assuming, told her and said, you know what, let's set this up now. But it wasn't just randomly doing stuff to do it.
Right.
All right. Very, very important distinction, guys. It's not just gonna happen. Hire some folks. I hired a coach myself who would use the term you can use money to buy time. All right, you could use other people's brain to buy time. What someone else has lived through, what someone else has gone through, what someone else has tried. Trust me, it's going to help you, and it's going to save you loads and loads and loads of time. It was right here on this show where I had to buckle. There was a CEO, his name was Jim Jacobs, Focus Insight. We are having a conversation on my podcast, and in the middle of the podcast, he goes, "Let me tell you what, Aswan, this is how I use ChatGPT. I write up the articles the same way, and then I ask ChatGPT, make it sound motivational, and it cuts my work time." And I'm sitting here floor like, wow. Okay. Ever since then, I've become you've created a monster. So all that being said, let's get to the questions. We probably answered a few of them, but let's just answer them directly, and then we will get on with it. We're doing this a little earlier than normal today, guys. So appreciate you. Appreciate your hold on. No, we got to make it 200 words or less. This one was too long. So let's do this real quick. All right, so that's one, but before we enter, let me make sure they're all make them. See, that's the cool thing. 200, make them less than 200. All right, cool. So let's get to the first one. It says, how do I evaluate the credibility and relevance of life experience in bilingual applicants when there isn't a formal resume or academic certification to validate? Okay, let me speak on that one from the potential employee standpoint, because I think that's a big one. When you're growing up, let's say you're growing up in a primarily Spanish-speaking country, you have access to the internet. You see what's going on. You see that you can build relationships with people from all over. So your ambition is a whole lot different than what my parents may have had before the internet. You couldn't connect with folks in the States and all that kind of stuff. So what I will tell you as someone who is hoping to be hired, or if you're hoping to find the best situation, put it online. Put your resume online, like actual have conversations, set up a channel, do something in which you're showing value to where a business owner could be on a vacation like this. Something can pop up on his or her feed. A talent recruiter, somebody can be seeing something, a problem can come up, and they look up this and they're like, oh man, and then they reach out, and the next thing you know, you're on an interview, but the interview process has already been done because you took the initiative. So that piece about credibility and relevance, that's something that's in your control. The younger you are, and if you don't take advantage of it when you're young, by the time you get to a certain age, guess what? Now you've lost it. So I'll let you speak on that. I know I went off a little bit.
Absolutely. So I will tell you that a lot of people, a lot of business owners, a lot of clients, they are hiring for life experiences as opposed to a resume that has a degree on it, because not that a degree is not important, it is, depending on where you want to go, but people want people with experience, with the actual experience, with the life experience to be able to handle high stress, high volume situations.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that, going to school is not worth anything, but we have a huge population of candidates that are so untapped because they may not have the degree, right? So you look at what they want, and a lot of times you will see now preferred, say a master's degree preferred or equivalent experience.
Mm-hmm.
That's life experience. And
Right.
so you have to show it, and you have to showcase it, and you can't just put the regular bullet points. You have to actually provide value driven and tailor each resume for whatever job that you're looking for. And that's why we talk about the importance for the job descriptions. They don't need to be 5 pages long. They need, people aren't going to read all of that. You need to give a high level overview and make it attractive to the candidate that you're looking to hire.
Right. All right. How does life experience compare to corporate or academic training in handling real world challenges, especially for bilingual candidates? All right. So this one, as you guys know this about me now, I take everything back to the football world, man. And it's one of those things when I transitioned from high school to college, our college coach, my linebackers coach, had this phrase that I always use whenever stuff like this comes up. He would always say, I can slow you down, but I can't speed you up. All right. So I get you guys are coming from a certain high school and You're used to doing things a certain way. If you are lazy and you don't want it, I can't make you want it. Now, if you're just too fast and I got to say, hey, slow down your angles here so you can make a tackle there, then you have something. So whether you're coming from the corporate or coming from the quote unquote real life experience, if you aren't pursuing, there's not a business owner out there that's going to help you do a damn thing.
Yeah.
All right. Because they can't teach you shit. Because on one end is a corporate person, you start to think you know everything and you're not willing to learn. It's a person with real life experiences. There may be some, I don't really feel like the need to do this, the need to do that. I don't feel like I need to go by a system because I was hired off my natural ability. And then both of those mentalities are going to leave until you're unemployed. You got to want it. You got to want it. Long before you get into that process, you got to absolutely want whatever it is you're going after. And then the people who have been there have seen both sides. Then they're going to be able to help you. So shout out to Coach Trick, man. That's 15 years ago. I'm still going off that, Coach Trick. Still hit me in the, can slow you down. I can slow you down. I can't speed you up. Come on.
It's a continuous learning mindset.
Yeah.
So no matter if you have a master's degree or you have life experience, if you're not still keeping up with the times and you're not learning as things come out, then you're behind and it's just going to fail. So you have to execute and learn it and execute it, learn it and execute it. And that's how you get life experience.
Yes. And that goes right to this one. I kind of already answered this one when I told the story about the lady that came from Creole. I'm not sure if you want to address anything, but basically it's what culture. I'll read it for the podcast listeners. What culture, insights, or problem-solving skills do bilingual individuals with life experience offer that traditional resumes may overlook? So,
yeah, I mean that's self-explanatory. I could speak Spanish, like I said, child conversationally, I would say. So if someone's a native speaker and they still have those skills that you're looking for, then I say, you need to go ahead and test those out because that's going to be your best bet. Someone that can handle and understand the culture. So.
Okay, so this one, it's kind of a self-explanatory question, but I do want to bring something up when this one comes up because it's important that you don't move too fast. So the question is, will hiring bilingual people with life experience strengthen our connection with diverse customers or communities? So obviously, yes. The answer is yes, obviously. But you got to take it a step further and make sure you actually have the damn customers, folks. Okay? You actually have to make sure you have the damn customers and you have the damn audience before you even get to that place as an owner. What I see every single day is business owners skipping steps and not realizing, hey, before I go and do X, I got to make sure this is in place first. You got to go get the customers, go develop the community, go test the product to see if the product actually works. And then the step in terms of hiring the bilingual people to strengthen it, that's when it helps. But don't do it before. Get the customers. Like the building yesterday, the restaurant was built on the water. Everything was looking great because they knew it attracted people to it. And then depending on those people, obviously it's Naples, Florida, Spanish speaking, it's South Florida, yada, yada, yada. All right, let's bring some bilingual people in as waitresses and waiters. And then they had a guy playing, he was on the violin. It was a real thing, and then they added those features, but the customers were already coming in first. So if you want to address anything there, that one was.
I just said it like in the last question, right? Of course, it's going to attract it because the culture is important. You connect people through your culture and where you're from. Like you and I are from Northern Virginia. And so we instantly connected right over the Redskins, and so that culture piece is so important. So absolutely, yes, it will help. But to your point, make sure you have the customer base.
Right. All right. Final one. How can we create a hiring process that values both lived experience and bilingual ability alongside traditional qualifications? So you know where I'm going with this. Football, sports. Okay, sports. No one is ever going to convince me that sports is not the greatest thing to do in regards to entering and creating this. You're out there, you see it's a kids game. First of all, it's a kids game. You're seeing families come together. You're seeing people making sacrifices. Sponsors that have big corporate experience versus people like whether it's a kid coming in with a single mom or a kid coming in with two-parent household. There's all of these factors in place, and then there's one team. Another team, and there's one actual objective, a goal for both of those teams, and you just see after whether the result of the game, let's shake hands, let's move on, to me, that's the best hiring process, and no one's ever going to convince. This is why it's called Move Swiftly Sports Marketing. You're not going to convince me there's a better way of creating this. Obviously, I'm very, very biased and passionate about this particular subject, so I'll let it go. I'll give you the final word today. Thanks for jumping on early, by the way, too.
You're welcome. So it's great. It's being very intentional about
Yeah.
what you want your culture to look like. You know, what you want your team to look like, and creating the HR framework, creating the job descriptions, creating the interview guides,
Mm-hmm.
and the end result. So you're looking at the end result and how do you get there, and
Yes.
those are the steps to get there. So no matter if it's sports or food distribution or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, you have to
Yes.
be intentional with what you do to create that culture. So that's it for today. Thanks for jumping on early,
Yep.
everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Appreciate you guys. And again, like I said, we practice what we preach around here. We don't just take days off. We don't stop. We do not stop because the hiring process will not stop. So everyone out there, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.